Hi, Pearl Foy again, we're back. Haircutting A to Z. Um, I have this mannequin here, and some of the haircuts, like I've talked to you in the past, it all depends on the natural fall of the hair. And one thing to remember about hair itself is the stretchability, or it's called elasticity. Elasticity of it's the ability of the hair to stretch and return back into its natural, keep in mind, natural shaping. So I'm not recommending that you cut hair dry. It's best if you cut it wet. You can control it better wet. However, wavy or curly hair should be cut dry. It's recommended that you do that damp at the most for control. But with this mannequin, we've done the zero on it. This is my zero mannequin. And now that we've gone through and combed it a little bit, one of the things you start noticing is some little natural waves in there. Now mannequins, they have hair that's been bought from other countries or whatever, dyed or colored or whatever to make it do what it's going to do or make it look what it's going to look like on the mannequin itself. So what I want you to see is that even though with our zero haircut that we did on this mannequin, a couple of videos down, you can see that with the natural fall. So what I've done, and this is just a clue for you, if you're watching all the videos, this is going to help you. You can go back to the video, the 0 degree, that's the A haircut. You can see that when it's wet, it stretches really good. But when it's dry, and I talked to you about this area underneath, and I want you to see that I'm making sure that my shear is straight, clean that up underneath. You can see it a lot more once the hair is dry. So I wanted to cover that before we get into our next haircut. Our next haircut, let me diagram it for you before we do it. I'm going to put my shears down. I'm going to diagram this for you. So what you're going to do on this haircut, you remember question mark, number 1 and number 2. You're going to subsection off the top again. Why? The natural fall of the hair. You want to section off the flat part of the head, and then you want to go tip of the ear to tip of the ear on your guide. So if we do the back of the head, where you can see the back of the head, here's your nape, there's your parietal line. Let's put our ears in there, we can't ever forget the ears. And then we want the tip of the ear to tip of the ear sectioned off again, and of course the flat part of the head, I'll just kind of dot that down right there. The reason for that is we're going to start from the bottom. This is going to be the A line. In other words, the hair is going to invert up in this cut. You saw the V cut and how we held it. We held everything forward with the V cut. With the A line, everything is going to be held back and to a point on that area. Diagram that out and then make your notes. Always make sure before you start my videos that you diagram, that you make notes, that you write things down. That's the best way to remember it. And then if we should have conversations back and forth about it, you'll have your notes to verify what you wrote down, and then we'll be speaking in those professional terms to get you where you need to be. But keep in mind about this with the zero. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to subsection it the way I just told you. The parietal line. Now this mannequin, I shared with you before that what I did was I traded with one of my students. She had gotten this mannequin, and what these are just flat mannequins. They're they cover a head form. So they don't rest as easy. They're a little bit more difficult to cut, so to make it easier for my student, I gave her a little bit better grade mannequin that had hair on it, kind of like, I could show you one in a little bit, but it's a real, what we would call a real mannequin. Not that these are fake or anything, but, you can do a lot more with it. So I'm sectioning off at the parietal line. How did I find the parietal line? Okay, this line right there just goes right across. And, I know how to do this, so I don't have to guess at it anymore. As you're learning, yes, you are gonna have to guess at it. And, this mannequin, again, this is the reason why I traded with my student. I didn't want her to go through all this of having to mess with it. Okay? So that's the parietal line. Section that up. We're gonna section off the flat part of the head, so you wanna go to that area just at that line right behind the ear. You wanna make sure that that subsection is totally straight. And you've got the flat. Now remember, it's not rounded yet. It's flat until it gets rounded. So you wanna take that whole flat section, bring it in. Excuse me. And I wanna clip that over here. I don't wanna pick it up because it decides to give me problems when I do that. So I'm gonna tuck that away right there. Bring this over. You can see that that's the flat part of the head again. Tuck that in real nice. Now, like I said, tip of the ear to tip of the ear. Now remember when we were doing the zero, the first haircut, I talked to you about bringing this over. And we said if you bring it over, what it's gonna do is it's gonna make it longer. So what I'm gonna do with the A-line haircut is shorter at the center nape. It does not matter how long you have it. You can have it this short, you can have it this long. Either way, it's shorter at the center nape and grows longer to the sides of the head. So totally opposite of what the V haircut was. The V haircut is longer in the back and shorter in the front, and that's what we talked about as far as are you going to use that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create, and I realized that when I was cutting that you couldn't see my cut. So I'm gonna start bringing my elbow down. I hope that helps, because before, see, you can't see me cut. So I'm gonna bring my elbow down. I'll be using the extended position. I'll be kind of crinking myself up a little bit here, but what I want you to do is I want you to get the cut. So again, what I'm gonna do then is just subsection another small section, because all this is gonna drop in just a minute. And they're not gonna drop, but I mean, it's gonna come down. That's just a term. All this is gonna come down to match. But what you're gonna do with this cut, I think I'm just gonna use a clip on this, right there, duck bill. All right, so I'm going to take it up about 2 inches. What this is this is going to become a stationary guide. There's a lot of factors that I can determine here. Do I want it to shape out as an A, or do I want it just to curve out? At this point, I'm just gonna curve it out. So the way that I'm gonna curve it out, again, the very center nape, bring it straight down. I'm taking off right at about 2 inches. And I'm gonna keep my elbow down. I gotta make myself a little strange. I wanna make sure that you can see the cut. See that my shear is straight. And I'm hoping it is. There you go. Now, what you're going to do, we're no longer gonna bring it over. Now I'm gonna take just about half of this section, and what did we say about when you move hair? I'm bringing that to the center. I'm bringing that to that very center point right here. This is my guide. So I'm gonna bring it way over. I'm just moving that over, and again, cutting straight across. And what you're gonna see is it's going to start curving down. Now, do you see that? It's a slight curve, it's not a heavy curve. Now, before I take this down, because I do want to take it shorter for you to see a true A-line, but this could be at the shoulders. This could be just below the neck. It doesn't have to be way up here. We're taking it up there because of the length of this hair. So I'm going to just drop off a small section of the flat part of the head. Now, what I would have done, and I will be doing this in a minute, I would have started it and kept traveling up till I got to the lower ridge only. If you don't know where the lower ridge, go to section A1 and you'll see it. You'll know exactly what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to slightly turn the mannequin. I want to get it equally wet. And then I'm going to take just a small section of this hair, half of it right there, and I'm going to bring that all the way over to that last guide. But I want to cut it again at a slight angle, because the hair itself, you can see that is straight, this is slightly angled. I hope you can see that. So I'm going to take it, and now do you see, I hope you can see my shear at an angle. And you can see, I'm going to bring this back. When hair travels, it does what? And I'm helping it along into creating that A. There is no elevation here. So this haircut has gone from this short to this long. And you always have to be careful about that rounded part of the head. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this down because we're missing this right here, and I don't want you to lose sight of this rounded area. That's going to go shorter in just a few minutes anyways. So we're going to be taking this mannequin up a little bit to create a true A-line cut. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this down so you can see what this part of the head does when you cut it to blend inside. And again, just like the zero, just like other cuts, you follow, after a while, you just follow a guide. We're creating this guide right here. I'm going to turn the mannequin. I can see my guide again. Now, I just follow it. You've created it on the bottom already. I'm going to bring this back. This is directed back. So everything is brought back. Now, how sharp you want it, again, you can kind of see it, shorter to longer. That's what the A-line is. It's supposed to shape off an A. Okay, you've got the gist of it, that it's going to go from shorter to longer. It will cup under, it goes under, and they've always got it a little shorter in the back. That's how you do it. You create this line here, and then as this travels, what it's going to do, what? It's going to create a slight angle into the cut. Okay? As you bring this back, the angle will then continue. Can you see that? Can you see that, cameraman? Okay, perfect. Want to make sure that you guys are getting this. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and subsection this back up again, because we're going to go shorter. And we're going to go quite a bit shorter. Because normally an A-line haircut, that's the gist of it. That's the method for it. It would do the same thing on the other side. We're going to do a much shorter cut. If you feel that you want to see it on longer hair, please let me know. I can do another mannequin and do it on longer hair. We did it on this one because we already had it taken down that far. All right, so this time we're going to go right up to the perimeter line of the nape. We're going to take it there. The way that you hold the hair is also another factor. This time we're going to create a sharp V into it. So you can definitely see, or not a V, but an A into it, that sharp capital letter A. All right? So I'm gonna part this down the center. I'm gonna take it now and I'm going to create a guide. Do you see that 135-degree angle? Remember the protractor? Go back and look at the other videos. Your protractor says that's a 135-degree angle. So I'm gonna take it, hold it straight down, but the angle of my cut, now what are the three important things about cutting? Sectioning, this is 0, elevation, this is the important thing. This is the surgery to the hair, all right? So know that. Know where your center nape is at. Don't take it off to the side because then you've lost it. So you've got to know exactly, how do you find your center nape? Put the comb here, okay, the very middle of that, that's our center nape. That's where the head rounds out, all right? So we're going to bring it, and so you can see it, I'm going to cut up. I'm going to cut at that angle. I'm going to bring this over now, that becomes a stationary guide, and I'm going to cut at that angle. I don't want you cutting at that angle, you really should be cutting down into that. All right, so now do you see that coming in? I'm going to take care of the other side. I want to get it nice and wet. I'll keep my elbow down so you can see it. Now, what is this angle? 45-degree angle. And cut up into it. You never want to cut past the first knuckle, so then you want to bring that over because this is your guide. You want to bring that over to your guide, still at a 45-degree angle, and then you do a check to make sure you're even on each side. Because now this is going to be your guide. So as I drop this down, can you see your guide? Now see, this has kind of already been cut, rounded, so I'm just gonna clean this up right here. Again, making sure the hair is very wet. And some A-lines go all the way into the center occipital. It's all taken up, and this is cut really, really short, where the longest point is here, but the A-line itself can go up higher, and you can still have the same length. I've seen them. I mean, look at people that you might think have an A-line haircut. That's how it's done. It's been brought up to that, but everything focuses on that area. So I'm going to part that off at the center, bring it over, 45-degree. I'm cutting at this angle so you can see it, and I'm going to clean it up if I have to. I need to go a little shorter. I missed my guide. Let's not jack this up. There's my guide underneath. Careful, 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 careful. All right, now this, remember, behind the ear, that's why you've got to know all the different parts of the head. Behind the ear is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches at the nape. So, and then you know the reason for that, right? Those cowlicks. So there you go. Again, and then we're going to clean it up a bit. I'm going to try and bring my elbow down for you, kind of cock myself around like this. There you go. And you can see that this is a little bit longer. I'm going to take off the other side. Same thing. This time, 45-degree angle. Bring this over. Same angle. And this is called initially pretty much a stationary guide at the bottom, because everything comes to this. And I want to make sure we're good. And you have to do the same thing. You have to go back, comb that hair in there, look at it, roll your comb down so you can see it. Do you see that? Now see how I have to clean that tiny little piece right there. All right, so now I'm going to drop that area from the lower ridge. Now I can see that I can't see my guide. Not visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it up half off, and this part is coming off the top. That's not, doesn't have anything to do with that. So let's take a look at it wet and see if our guide is still there. So the variables here are from shoulder, and then you can bring it longer in the front, as long as you're holding it at that angle, and bringing everything back to that guide. As we do the sides, I'm gonna show you exactly how to travel into that guide to build that up. So let me spray this. And this is our C cut, and it's the A line. The B cut was the B. Now, see that we can definitely see our guide. What's a simple way to do this? You can comb it down and cut into your guide. Did you see me do that, or should I do it like this? Okay, so it's right there, it's just, now, move that out a bit. Bring my elbow down so you can see it, making sure that we're following that guide exactly. I'm gonna bring it over, turn it, I don't wanna give you my back. All right, now we don't want that. We want to make sure that you're at the center nape, or else you'll make it longer. Okay, this needs to come on. All right, so center nape, 45 degree, center nape. I see where I need to bring this over. See, I have my guide. And you can see that if I'm working this, don't you think you're gonna have to be working it? Now I see a little bit longer area there, so I'm gonna bring the comb in and take that off. Look at my guide, I'm still even. That's exactly what I want. Okay, pull that up because that's off the parietal line. All right, and I can still see my guide, and as I get this wet, you'll be able to see your guide as well. And remember, you always part off above the parietal line because of why? The natural fall of the hair. I probably forgot to turn on my cameraman. How long have I been on? Okay, 10 minutes? 4 minutes? Oh, 20 minutes. Okay, so we're gonna go over our 30 minutes just a little bit this time. So when you're filming these, after a while you do have to, we have to start communicating a little bit, because that's how we found out about the elbow thing. That's, all those little things come up. But the biggest thing that I want you to get a method. And the most important thing, know where you're at. See, we're right here. This is the center nape. This is the area behind the ear. That's traveling to the center nape. This has now come down, but yet it's being cut at this area right here at the very center nape at an angle, and you can see that it already projects to become longer. So all those things are big factors in cutting. So I'm going to take this. I want to separate that out of the way so that we can see what we're doing. Again, I can see my guide. Can you see it? All right. So I'm right at the center nape. I'm coming down at a 135 degree angle. And now do you notice that I'm kind of holding it straight? I don't need to travel over here anymore. I can just hold it straight down, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now if I want it to be longer, I can keep moving it to the center, and it will keep on it'll grow just a little bit more, but that hair underneath is going to be shorter. So I'm just following my guide for that A line. All right, now I'm going to bring this one, and I believe you can see the guide. And there it is, and I just follow it. And like I said, when hair is wet, it's going to rest a little differently than when it's dry. And you've got those, I want to show you what I'm doing. I want to let you see what I see. Do you see those little hairs underneath that? Okay? We can go in and clean that up, or we can leave it. Either way. If you leave it, when you blow dry it, it's going to cup under real nice. If you take it off, it's going to create a little bit more volume, because then this hair will be slightly shorter. See, when you pull the hair, like I said, the elasticity of the hair, do you see how it blends? But yet when you let it go, and that's because of the roundness of the head. The roundness of the head then pulls that right back up. And that's where you see that nice cupping under with that. But if you want more volume, especially women with really fine hair, take that off. That's going to, again, increase the volume for them. They don't necessarily have to see that. They want to see this, all right? So keep that in mind. We're going to leave it, because what we want is we want the movement when we blow dry it. So understand those two factors, all right? So now what I'm gonna do, you can see that these cuts don't really take a long time. It's following your guide. Once you get started, you follow your guide. Can we go through and layer this? Yes, we can. There's so many things that we can do to take this cut and make it just slightly different. Right now, all we're doing is the A-line, and we're not bringing it up to the occipital. If we were, the cut would have started here and then traveled down to this area. Believe it or not, you can do that. Make it this short and keep it this long on the sides. Or make it this short and bring it shorter on the sides. Just depends. So the variables are extreme on it. The main thing to do is learn the method for an A-line and then work with it. So what I'm gonna do, I am gonna get this to travel back. I'm not going to, it has to travel back to find that guide. Oops. I wanna make sure you see it. So see, we found the guide, and as you bring it to the side, do you see that coming down? Because this traveled back to blend. You're not going to guess at what angle you need to do this. Now, do you see this little thing right here? That is this area. That's part of the geometry of hair cutting. You've taken the perimeter line and you've moved it back. So what it does, once you cut across that, it expresses that line. Now we can bring it straight down and you can't see it. We can bring it straight back and you can't see it. But when you try and style it, there it is. You see what I'm saying? This looks a little shorter, and that's because of the curve of the head. The cut is not incorrect. The cut is correct. You can see that that's even. So got a little tail right here. But there's so many whys in hair cutting that people really don't understand. So there you go. You've got it shorter to longer on the sides. So I'm going to take this side now, and I'm going to bring it down. Please be taking notes. Please be writing down. And, like I shared with you, I'm glad that I gave my student a much better mannequin. These are nice. They serve the purpose, but they're just a little bit more difficult to cut with. Now, you can see the guide right there off of the almost starting to go into the rounded part of the head. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to take it only to the guide. I don't want the flat part of the head right now taken off. So that's where the natural fall comes in. That's what I'm telling you about. I wish it could all just be perfect, but it's not. It's kind of a robotic thing. But know where you're at on the flat part of the head. The flat part of the head ends right there. Isn't that where it ends? You see it? And I had taken just a little bit too much off, so that rounded part fell down in there. All right, so now I'm going to bring this back. Get it good, equally wet. It's always got to be equally moist, or what happens when it dries, it hangs differently. You'll see little glitches or whatever. That's why it's good, especially on a designer cut like this, to go ahead and blow dry it. Don't send the person off without styling it. Okay, so we're just working with that area. at the area behind the ear. And you almost see a corner there, see that? See where that's not gonna take off much length? As a matter of fact, the length isn't coming off there. Let's make sure we're even. And there you go, there's the angle. Again, do you see this area here? This slightly rounded area here is this slightly rounded area there. So these are factors. So that's where you kind of comb it down and clean it up. Comb it down, clean it up. Don't cut to cut. If you're not sure, it's best not to, because what? Can you put it back? No. All right, let me look at the front, make sure we're even. I think we're a little longer on this side, and why is that? You know, we're even down here. It's this right here. But why is that? What I told you a term on the last haircut that happens, and it's normal. Push, pull. I'm on the other side, right? So I'm moving upward instead of downward. So we tend to make it longer when we're moving upward, and we tend to make it shorter when we're going downward. Strange. Just like, let me dry off my shear, got some hair on it, and always remember, you work the back of it, do not work the blade part. Just like when I was showing you how to hold your shear. As soon as I go down, for me it looks straight. For you, you can see that it's a little bit off. Now, the balls of your fingers are going to manipulate the shear in that form. See it? It moves it back and forth. They're also going to manipulate it in this form. That's where you push the tang, pull up with these two to make sure, the index finger and the middle finger, to make sure that it's straight. Your ring finger and your thumb are busy cutting. The others are organizing, all right? So, and it takes practice. It's not something you're just going to be able to do. So we want to bring this over. Again, there it is. Okay, it was just a corner, and you'll learn to find it. And you always travel in the same direction. Don't start going in different directions when you're trying to take care of something. Let's look at it again. Oh, I can see where it's at. Definitely see where it's at, right there. And didn't I tell you before, on the last cut, that you'll find little areas underneath. And where is it? On the corner, again, to make it a little bit longer. So even with the 0, so let's go back, there you go. And I think you're going to find that it's going to come up pretty even. Holding that straight down, bring that straight back. Do your best not to guess. Watch what you're doing. Bring it straight back. There you go. And less is better. It's better to crawl up into it to get it even than to take a big chunk off at one time. Now, keep in mind, this is slightly dried, this is wet. So let me wet the other side, because what happens when you're trying to measure that, wet hair tends to stretch a little more. This hair has been chemically treated. It's going to stretch a little more. Now, it's wet. Do you see it? Are we even? Nope, we're still just a scotch longer. So, oh, there it is. Watch what happened when I held it straight down. Do you see that slight corner? So those are all factors in going back and checking. And it all goes back to push, pull. So keep that in mind when you're cutting. It makes a difference. And you're always going to go side to center, side to center. You never go all the way around. You're not going to get a true uniform haircut. Now we're even. There you go. Let's make sure. Yep, there you go. We're even. So now we're going to just, now again, the top. How do we determine what we're going to cut above the parietal line? Well, do they part it on the side? even with an A-line haircut, if they part it on the side, you're gonna part it on the side, and you're gonna tell them, you know, do you change your part very often? Do you have your part like that all the time? Is that how you normally part it? Because if you part it like, if you change your part, it's going to lay just a little bit more layered on one side than the other. So I'm bringing it straight down. Okay. We try to keep our haircuts at 30 minutes for you. If you want them to go longer, please let me know. I can be a whole lot more detailed, but this is for people that really want to learn how to cut. So I feel that you guys are going to pay a lot more attention than somebody that doesn't want to. So that's why we decided, well, let's just keep them short for now. And if there's specifics or details that they need to know, and you know, the mannequins don't necessarily have cowlicks, but this hair does have a history. It's natural hair. It's human hair. So when you have human hair, you're going to have the human hair characteristics. It looks like at one time this particular person that they got this hair from had curly hair or a slight wave to it. So you can really see the line of the A line now. You can really see it just underneath, shorter to longer. Instead of the V, we're just going in the other direction. So all I'm going to do now is just follow my guide. Now, if I have longer hair, okay, we'll ignore our little timer because we're over time already. On the longer hair, if you really want this sharp, you want to bring it all the way back. Now, we didn't have enough length to do that with, but if you want a really sharp corner, you want to bring it all the way back to cut it. And that'll create length and a sharper, more dramatic line. So do you see the variables in this? None of them are wrong. You can go, I mean, we're doing right here, we're doing about a 45-degree angle. But if we do it almost, now there's your 90-degree angle, 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle. So if you do it between the 90 and the 45, that's going to be like an extreme A-line. And again, after you get used to cutting, after you get used to seeing it, after you get used to proper use of your tools, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you go into this kind of, you know, designer haircut. We want to keep it simple for you to learn hair cutting and kind of be able to do some creative stuff as well. This is a creative haircut. And you know, people are going to wear it. People are going to like it. So what I want to do here, I'm just going to follow. I am going to pull it back just a bit. And I'm just going to follow the guide. Remember, I am pushing here. And I'm not going to cut past the second knuckle. Still following the guide. I've got I just saw a little, see that? And those are things that you have to look for. All right, so I'm going to turn it around, go to the center, and remember, side to center, side to center. I want to make sure I'm right at my center nape, that I'm nowhere else. I don't want to go too far over. I want to stay right at the center nape to create this cut and make it look like it's supposed to look. Another thing that we're going to be doing is maybe afterwards, and we did it with the V haircut because we didn't get it as sharp as we wanted, and some of it had to do with the length of hair. I mean, the V haircut is really meant for really long hair. But we found out that once it dried, we had to flat iron it to be able to get rid of some of the corners that are going to come up. That's normal. Those are normal things to happen. Remember, when you take it to one place, it's going to gather the lines of within and around it. A lot of people don't understand that. They don't know why. So, you know, with this class, with this instruction, you're learning the whys. Do you see the guide? All right, I'm going to go in this form, and that could be why this got a little shorter too, because I was going in that form, trying to push when to pull when I was needed to be pulling. Now do you see the guide? The guide is just underneath that. So I'm going to hold my fingers up to kind of guide my shears, but your shears are the cut. One little one there. Just that little bit now. Center nape. I want to make sure that we have this right at the center and that we're V'ing it out. So there's the very middle of the nape. I want to V that out. I'm sorry. Bring my elbow down so you can see it. Elbow down so you can see it. And then making sure. And I'm just going to kind of point cut that in. But you can see the cut. And you can see that's a definite A line, and it's always going to be shorter in the back, longer in the front. You can see that line coming up. And then if you blow dry this, oh, I want to show you something. We were talking about if they part it. This is what's going to happen if your friend or your neighbor or whoever you cut their hair parts it. And do you see what I'm saying? By the way, everybody has a natural growth pattern. One side of the hair grows forward, one side of the hair grows back. That's normal. That's why sometimes you're poofy on one side and you're flat on the other. But that could be right here, a cowlick. Do you see what I mean? And let me comb it over the other way. There. So with the part, what will happen, it's not going to look bad. But do you see how, because of the length, it's going to look just a little longer on this side than the other side. It's also, as you travel up and as you blow dry this, it's going to be slightly, ever so slightly layered. So it can be done, and this is just, just a little bit off the center part. So it's not that much different, but it does appear just a little bit longer. So you have to be careful about that. All right? So I wanted to make sure and show that to you before we finished off today. Please keep watching our videos. Any questions or comments, please let us know. We will be doing almost every haircut that you see out there. Towards the end, we're going to be doing, these are going to be all zero elevation haircuts. At the end, we are going to be doing some clipper cutting. I'll show you proper use of the clipper. The only thing we're not going to do is razor hair cutting. Razor cutting, I'm a master razor cutter, and it is not something that you can do a video on. You have to physically do that. You have to physically come up and learn how to use a razor. There's quite a few techniques with the razor, and it's extremely a sharp tool and a very delicate tool to use. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate it. I truly hope that you get information from these videos. Please diagram it. Please write it down. Send me a copy of your diagram so I can see that, so that we're both speaking the same language. But before we start the next cut, I may just have this blow dried for you to see it, to see what the A line does a little bit. And if there's anything that needs to be fixed in it, I'm going to leave it for you to see it on how I would fix it before we go into cut D. All right? Thank you so much. Have a great day. God bless.